And we are live. Hello, everybody. I see y'all are interested in hearing from my guest today. Um, if you are just tuning in, say hello in the chat. I see everybody who is here: Trine, Venus, Tamika, Alicia, Marcia, Angela. Okay, y'all. So, um, today we are talking to a very special guest who has, I think, a pretty incredible story. Um, and I'm not gonna give too much of it away. I'm gonna let her tell y'all. But so cool is that she decided that she didn't want to retire in the US and she has chosen to retire on cruise ships. And I've seen a couple of people do this. She's the first Black woman I've seen do it. And it looks so awesome, so cool. Like it might be a good solution to a lot of you. Before I bring her in, just in case you are new to the channel and you're like, what is this place? Who are these people? Let me be the first to welcome you to the Picky Girl Nation. Um, I am Adelia Aborashade. Picky Girl travels the world. This is my channel. This is a place where we talk about all things money, travel, life abroad. So if you have been considering leaving the US or traveling alone, or you're just trying to figure out how to make your money do what it needs to do so that you can do any of those things, you are in the right place. So, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guest. Everybody say hello to Linnell, aka Poverty to Paradise, who is joining us live from a cruise ship, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, we were a little nervous that that the tech would not cooperate with us, but it is doing its thing. So glad to have you here. I remember you two started putting your videos in my feed, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I immediately subscribed. I went to the thing and I was like, I need to talk to her. And there was no email address there. And so I was trying all kinds of ways to find you. And then you posted, and I finally did. And I was like, hey, Linnell, I need to talk to you. So I'm so glad that you said yes and are joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I am super new to all this stuff. I didn't think to put an email, and there's so much stuff that I still have to learn. So, yep, I'm figuring it
Okay.
out as I go along. Thank you for having
Hey,
me.
that's all we can do. That's all we can do. You are most welcome. Okay. The ladies who are in the chat, some of them showed up 30 minutes early because they did not want to miss this conversation. So we go we gonna get into it. I want to before we jump into what your life is like now, let's talk a little bit about what your life was like before. Um, you were working a job. Was it a job you loved?
It was a job that I loved. I was 18 years as a property manager, and then I always loved math. So I went back to school in my 40s to become an accountant, and I had did that for 10 years, and I loved accounting. I super
Okay.
loved doing accounting, everything accounting. And I loved the company that I worked for. After the pandemic, like a lot of other people, things started going chaotic, and it was one of those jobs where that because of the pandemic, everybody was trying to tighten their belts, and so people were getting let go. And other people who figured out they don't want to come back to work or whatever, so they were leaving. So the rest of the crew, as a lot of you probably had happened to you too, we got work piled on us from people who left. So that wasn't a really big deal, but that was a stressor, of course. And then also the dynamics of who was in different offices and supervisors, and can we work remote and can we not? All of that stuff just started becoming a toxic environment, and the people at the top were not listening to the people on the ground. And where we for me, for instance, for all of you accountants out there, you know that 99% of your job you don't need to be in the office. I worked for 2 years after the pandemic from my living room, and I loved it. And especially because I'm an introvert, I don't need all the social interaction that other people do. As a matter of fact, I got way more of my work done when I did it from home, because I could get out of my bed at 5 o'clock in the morning and do the parts that I love. And I could work late, didn't have to worry about commuting and things like that. But when they said, hey, you guys got to come back to the office, now I got to work with these toxic people again. Now I'm getting less work done because we have all the water cooler stuff happening and all that good stuff. And it just started not to become a good fit for me anymore. So that was my pre-retirement. Hey, I've been watching some channels on YouTube of different people doing different things as far as taking sabbaticals and retiring early and moving abroad and doing van life and all kinds of stuff. And so that kind of got me thinking of, hey, what can I do to get rid of all this stress in my life? So that was me pre-retirement. Yeah.
Okay, and so you opted to retire. How old were you when you retired?
I just retired in March and I'm 53. I was 53 at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so an early retiree. And you also now, what was your relationship status at this point? Because are you on the ship with someone? Or are you like single, divorced?
Okay, so I was married for 24 years and I have 3 kids from that marriage. And I was widowed. He died in his mid 40s. As a matter of fact, the month before I graduated from my accounting classes, he passed away. A couple years later, I got remarried, and I'm just gonna jump in this right now, y'all. I'm trying to calm myself because this is my first interview. This is my first live. Um, this is my first time doing all this stuff, so it's a lot of firsts for me. So I'm gonna just jump in and just talk to y'all like y'all sitting right here with me. Okay, so
That's how we do it over here. So don't worry about it.
so what had happened was, if anybody watched, so I was married for 7 years, and nobody's on the ship with me. Let's start with that. If any of you have watched Risa Tisa on TikTok, you're smiling, you know who she is. Risa Tisa on TikTok. So she had this, for those of you who don't know her, she had this 40-part series about how during the pandemic she married this guy and she realized she didn't really know who he was. She kind of jumped the gun and things like that. And I was at the time, before I left my job, we were still working partly remote. So certain days of the week we could still work remote. And I'm the type of person where I can't have any kind of radio, TV, background music, nothing like that when I'm working, when I'm focusing on all these accounting numbers and things like that. So I never watched TV or anything like that when I worked remote. I took a break on lunch one time and I was at home and I heard Risa Tisa on YouTube. And I'm like, who is this girl? Well, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, once you hear her story, all 40 whatever parts to it, you can't stop. And so that's how I was. Like, I would work and then go take a break, work, go take a break. And I just watched all 40 episodes in less than 2 days. Long story short, she put it in my head that, hey, maybe there's some things that I'm not aware of that I should be aware of. And so there's a lot more to this story, but just in general, why I'm single now. Um, My husband at the time had started becoming very toxic. We were married for 7 years, and I'm only going to mention a part of it because I don't want him living rent free in my head. We were married for 7 years, and over the last, I would say, 6 months, uh, before I did all this, things just started looking crazy. He was acting crazy. He was doing crazy things. He had had surgeries before and things before where I had access to his phone and things like that. But again, I was married for 24 years, so I had a great relationship and a great marriage, and I had a great marriage this time as well. But this time he had a surgery in March, and Risa Tisa said that she checked her phone and she found out that she was married to someone different. I don't know why. I did it. I checked his phone. I'd never checked his phone before, had access to his phone before, never even thought about it. While he was in surgery, he gave me his phone. I checked his phone. I was married to a completely different person. This was a total actor. Everything over the last 6 months of why he was why he was acting different and things like that, just kind of came to fruition. And long story short, the person that I was married to was not the same person who owned this phone, and I was just done with it. Before I left the hospital, I waited for him to come out of it. I said, dude, this is what I see. What's going on? The narcissistic, all the other things that Legion was doing, this my husband was doing the same thing. I said, I called his mom, I called his sister. I'm not even coming back to this hospital to wait for him to recover.
Oh, look,
I went home.
come get your son, come get your brother.
I went home. I had at least 3 days because I knew he was going to be in the hospital to recover. I packed everything right then and there. After I got all my stuff out with the U-Haul and everything, I filed for divorce that same day. In Georgia, you don't even have to wait 30 days. The divorce was final. So now I'm single. I have 3 kids. They're all grown. I have 5 grandkids. They're the love of my life. And yep, I'm cruising solo. My first few cruises I took with my sisters. I have 2 sisters. I'm one of 7 kids. I took my first free cruises with my sisters, 2 with one sister, and the third one with both my sisters. But other than that, I'm totally solo. No one else cruises with me.
Hey, congratulations on your divorce. F. Doctor said a woman's intuition is no joke. And I always say the universe tends to unfold as it should. So while you may have had chances to check his phone previously, you were supposed to check it then. Okay.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you left a job that in the end was not treating you the way you wanted to be. You got rid of a man who was not who he was supposed to be. You talking about not having him live rent free in your head. I was married for 20 years, and I do not use the H word. He is that man I used to be married to, or oh boy, he who shall not be named. So I understand that. All right. But you have kids, you have grandkids, and upon retiring, there are some folks who would think, well, go play grandma. And you said, no, I'm grandma, but I want to go do something else. How did you arrive at the idea of living on cruise ships?
So playing grandma was very tempting if you knew, and everybody says this, right? If you knew my grandkids, you would know why. They're the best grandkids in the world, the cutest in the world. And my daughter actually offered for me to do that, but I chose not to because one reason. At least in the culture that I was brought up with, 2 women can't live in the same household. And I've seen so many times where when 2 women, and I know some cultures do it, but I've seen so many times when 2 women live in the same household, then they start to clash and then they don't like each other and all that. No, I love my daughter. She is, outside of my grandkids, she's one of my favorite people. And I did not want to clash heads with her. But when I was transitioning, I did stay with my daughter. I have 2 sons also. but I stayed with my daughter, her husband, and the kids. And also because I'm Gen X and they're a different generation, the way that they discipline the kids, the way that they coddle them, and different things like that is totally different than the way that I would do it. And it kind of hurts my heart when I see them doing one thing and I want to hug the kids, or if I see them hugging the kids and I want to discipline them, and I'm like, nope. We can't do this. I want to keep that great relationship that I have with my family. So that was not an option. um, when I left my job, which yeah, I was gonna do it on April 1st because I wanted it to be an April Fool's joke. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If you know me, you'll understand why, but I couldn't do it. But I left my job, I think the last week of March. So I didn't want to do that April Fool's joke. But so divorce March, left my job March. Um, my mother had just passed away in January, and I had this is a whole totally different story, but I had sold my house in January and we bought another house 2 days later. Um, so let me back up to that because this is kind of important. Um, Back in October of 2023, I went on a solo cruise by myself because, as I said before, I found out what he was doing. That 6 months before then, it was a lot of tension and stress, and between him and the job, everything was like very toxic. So I had to take a break. So I took a cruise by myself, Royal Caribbean. My bucket list was I'd never been to Hawaii and Bermuda. So I took a cruise to Bermuda, loved it. That was my first solo cruise, had never done a solo cruise before, and loved it. And so at that time, I was already starting to contemplate, what do I want out of this marriage? Is it me? Because you always got to self-reflect, right? Is it me? Is something that I'm doing wrong? What can I do to make it better? Those type of things. So I was already thinking about what's going on, and I came to the conclusion that nope, I've been married before. I have relationship with friends. I have relationship with families, and I'm not doing anything wrong that I shouldn't be doing as far as this marriage. But I'm still going to be the best wife that I can. But in case it doesn't go right, I want to sell this house. So the house was in my name. It was a 4 bedroom, 3 bath house that we had, just the two of us. Don't ask me why we had such a big house. It was in a 55 plus community, even though both of us were less than 55. And I just convinced him that we don't really need this big old house. We need to get a smaller house. I really just wanted the house out of my name. So in January, leading up to this, in January, we had already went through the process and everything. We sold that house and we bought another house. And he said, nope, this next house, all the houses we've had have always been in my name. We're gonna see if we can get in your name with your credit. And everything was in his name. So I said all that to say, come March, I had no ties. My mom had passed away. Um, my dad passed away back when I was very little. My kids were all grown, house not in my name, no ex. The job was gone, so I was free. So then I looked into just taking some cruises after this job thing to see where I was going to go. I highly contemplated doing van life. I highly contemplated staying with my daughter. I thought a lot about just jumping out there because I was a part of the Exodus Summit community. I thought about just jumping out there and going to another country. I thought about just staying put over in Atlanta, which is where I was, which was super, super high to live out there compared to some of the other places that I'm seeing. But then I saw some cruises come through on the website, and I'm like, let me just take some time for myself and take a couple cruises. And so that's when I saw the cruise come up in April. It was two cruises that were free on Royal Caribbean. That's what my sister went on with me. And then as I kept looking through the email, I'm like, wait, for more than just one or two free cruises, take a whole bunch of them. And I started looking through the fine print, and the accountant analytic mind in me looking through the fine print, and it's like, oh, this one says I can take 6 cruises. This one says I can book 7 on this deal. And I just started booking all the cruises I could. So that's how I transitioned from all that mess. So let's do some free cruises. And they started to line up with the dates and everything.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Um, So the free cruises were kind of, it appears to be sort of like the gateway. Um, do you remember when it went from, okay, I'm going to do these cruises and then I'm going to go on with my next thing to, oh, my next thing could just be cruising?
It actually has not happened yet. I have not figured out yet. Being a woman of faith, I see where God wants me to be, honestly,
Okay.
because I was not expecting. Are you still there?
I am.
Okay, because the screen was freezing up. Um, I was not expecting to do this cruise life. Well, first of all, I wasn't expecting to be single. Okay, I wasn't expecting to leave Georgia. So there's a lot of things that I'm not expecting. So when I started getting these free cruises, I'm like, I'm just gonna book as many as I can. I don't know where God want me at. I might be on cruises for the rest of my life. I might, after I'm done with this, there's a reason why he's planted all these videos of Exodus Summit and Adelia and Stephanie and Rashida and everybody. There's a reason why this stuff is in my head. I don't know if that's for me to go ahead and live abroad right after these cruises that are ended, or if I'm going to get some more cruises and live on cruises the rest of my life till I die. Maybe me watching these other people live abroad was just for me to have conversations with other women or people that I meet, just so I have that background. I have no idea. So I am very open and flexible to what my future holds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've got several people that would like to understand more what you mean about free cruises.
All right, so let's see how I can um, put a lot of detail into a short, concise explanation. So I'll do them one at a time. So I have free cruises with Royal Caribbean and free cruises with Carnival. I'll start with Carnival. Mother's Day 2023, I took a cruise on Carnival Celebration I took my kids and my grandkids on a 6-day cruise for Mother's Day present to myself. It was very expensive. I didn't care. I was making six figures. I wanted to treat my kids and my grandkids, so we went on that cruise. As an accountant, I'm kind of frugal but I love casinos. So that cruise I played $100. When I go to casinos normally on land or I hadn't been on cruises in a while. When I go to casinos on land, I play $100 a day in the casino. Win, lose, or draw, I treat it just like when we used to go to the arcade and play Pac-Man or whatever. Win, lose, or draw. After that $100 a day is gone, I leave. Um, on that cruise, I played. I want to say the third day. I don't remember because I wasn't thinking about all this was going to happen. I had no idea this was going to happen. So, by the third day, so I'm going to say I spent $300. I was up in the casino, so I took my $300, put it back in my purse in my room or whatever, and then I just played with the money I was winning. By the time I left the end of that cruise, I was up by 1,360 something dollars of their money. Everybody likes to win in the casino, right? So take money home, you're happy, you're good, blah blah blah. Fast forward to when all this happened in March for Carnival. When I saw those free cruises coming in, it was deals like $100 per person and $100 onboard credit. So long story short, for Carnival, they will send me 3 or 4 different offers at a time, and I will book the cruise. For instance, this one here that I'm on right now, I'm on Carnival Venezia, and we're parked in Miami. This is a 9-day cruise. So the I don't remember the exact amount for this one, but let me back up because I know the exact amounts for the other one. I've been on this ship for 2 months. A 10-day, 11-day, a 10-day, 11-day, and now I'm on the 9-day. So I just did my expense thing for the for October, so I know the amounts. So the 10-day cruise, as an example, one of the 10-day cruises, I paid $460. 260 is for the port fees and taxes. The other 200 I get back in an onboard credit. If I had brought my sister or somebody with me, it would have been the same amount. It would have been $100 for her, $100 for me, and we both would have got $100 onboard credit. So to me, that the cruise itself is free. I just paid the port fees and taxes. And so from that one cruise that I took on Carnival Celebration with my kids and grandkids, I have been able to book 40 cruises with Carnival. About 80% of them are totally free, where I'm just paying the port fees and taxes. The other 20% is where I'm maybe paying like $200 or $300 for the cruise portion and no onboard credit. So those will come up in my expense videos when I'm doing that. But yeah, so that's what it comes out to for Carnival, which when I looked at it, it's like it was coming out to like $200 a week. And I'm like, that's $800 a month. Even if I put in gratuities, that's like, $1,200, $1,500 a month. And I'm gonna get food. I don't have to buy anything while I'm on here, right? I just gotta pay for my cell phone, my health insurance, and things like that. I could get extras like Wi-Fi and things like that if I want. Most of the time I don't. But when I looked at it and I saw I could do $1,500 a month, and I'm like, I have to get rid of my car. I won't have car insurance. I don't have to pay utilities. I don't gotta pay no cable bill, all that. I'm like, yeah, this it's gonna be too good to pass up. So that's Carnival. I think I probably booked maybe 20 or 30 initially, and then as those offers expire, they send more offers, and I just tack on, hey, I got, whatever, 3 cruises in out of Galveston, and they're giving me another offer. Can I tack on another? So, um, so that's Carnival. Royal Caribbean is similar, but a little different. When I took that one cruise, on Mariner of the Seas in October when I went solo by myself, my first solo cruise. Um, Royal Caribbean actually tells you how many points you need to book a cruise. I didn't notice. This was an 8-day cruise, and I still had my $100 a day budget. And I want to say by the third or fourth day, there were some women in the casino, and I noticed that they were going to the same machines every night, and they would be sitting there for hours. I'm like, I'm kind of nosy like that. I ain't kind of nosy. I'm nosy. So I'm like asking them, why are y'all at the same machines for so long? And what are y'all doing? That's when they told me about the free cruises. And one lady was like, yeah, I'm just sitting here pressing the button until I get my free balcony cabin. I'm like, tell me more. So that's when I found out that Royal Caribbean has this sheet when you go on their cruises. It's online also, but they have a sheet and it says something like you need 400 points, 600 points, 1,200 points to get a free cruise. And so, of course, everyone wants to know, well, how much do you have to spend to get those points? You could spend $20, win some of their money, keep playing with their money like I did on Carnival Celebration, and you got a free cruise with 20 bucks. You could also go in there and spend $3,000 and get the same amount of points. There is no certain amount of money or time. It's how many points that you need. And they tell you, and I want to say for Royal Caribbean, it was 1,200 points or 2,000 points, something like that. It's on, I have it in the video. But I sat with them, and I think I had, by the time I got the points that I needed for just a basic free cruise, I think I had like 20 bucks left because I didn't want to go outside of my budget. Um, but yeah, so I ended up getting that free cruise. They sent me a certificate for Royal Caribbean, and the way that they do it different is, like I said, with Carnival, you pay a $200, $100, whatever deposit, and then you get that back in the onboard credit. Royal Caribbean is like, they're like, here's your free cruise. I think my first two was, one was a balcony and one was an ocean view. And you just pay the port fees and taxes. You don't pay anything for the cruise. You don't get any onboard credit and things like that. And so with another thing that's different with Royal is with Carnival, I could book those online myself. And recently I got a PVP. That's another story. But with Royal, you just call in a phone number and say, hey, I got this flyer in the mail, or I got this email, and here's the code. And then someone on the phone will book your free cruise for you, ask you, they'll give you, um, I always tell them, is this certain cabin? Because I look ahead of time. Is it available? Blah, 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 blah. So you tell them what cabin you want, what deck you want, and all that. And then they book it right then and there. So yeah, I ended up getting probably 10 with Royal when I first did this back in March. Since then, every month or so, they would send more offers in the mail or in your email saying, here's another free cruise. Can you book it? So all of that is because they said, hey, these first two cruises, we saw that you spent $100 in our casinos, and so we know you play in the casino. So we're going to invite you back to play in the casino on more cruises, not realizing that, hey, I'm very frugal. Now that I got all these free cruises, I don't have to go in your casino anymore. I played what I played. If I feel like going to the casino, I will, but that's not like something that I have to do. As a matter of fact, I've been on this ship for 2 months and I've only gone to casino once, and I've only spent $50 and I got back 57. So yeah, that's the deal with the free cruises. Does that make sense? Do I need to clarify anything on that?
I'm sure there are people in watching this either live now or who are going to watch the replay who had no idea they were just out here handing out free cruises like this. But what I'm hearing is once you're in their infrastructure, once you're in their network, um, they want they want you to keep coming back. And so
Right.
I love what Monet Chanique said, instead of cruise credit card hacking, she is cruise hacking. I love to see it. Again, I had no idea such a thing was even possible. Um, okay. And several people have asked this. This is a question that I want to know the answer to as well. You just mentioned you've been on this ship for several months. What does a typical day or a typical week in your life on a cruise look like?
Um, Before I answer that, I want to speak to that last comment. It's actually not instead of, it's in addition to. So I also do credit card hacks. My last flight
I
was
was
five
going to
dollars
ask
and
you
sixty
about that in a
cents.
little bit. I was going to ask you about that in a little bit.
And also when I was an apartment manager, before my kids were grown, I got two boys. One is 6'8", one is 6'4", I think. They tall. They used to eat me out of house and home, but I used to be an extreme couponer. So saving is already in my blood. So back to your question, just like yours, or everybody else who's watching, whatever I feel like doing that day. There's no typical day for me. Um, Even though I'm normally a creature of habit, but now that I don't work, a typical day for me could be I wake up in the morning and I want to do everything that is on the fun times. They have so many activities. One day I might get up and I want to go do everything. I want to go. I'm usually going to the sail away party when they have that because I love line dancing. And usually if there's some kind of class for dancing, even if I've taken it before, I take it again. Learning how to salsa, learning how to do. There's a Beyonce single ladies class that they always have. I'm still trying to figure out how to do them moves. Uh, they have productions in the theater. So some days I may do everything. Some days I may do absolutely nothing. I don't feel like leaving the house today. So I might order from room service for breakfast, for lunch. I might throw on something, go up to the Lido deck, bring some food down, and just watch TV. We don't have regular TV, right? So we have, if you've never been on a cruise before, we have one on this ship. All the ships are different. On this one, we have one news channel, CBS streaming. We have HGTV, Discovery, Sports Channel, things for the kids. We have a lot of streaming movies that you can do for free, which I love to watch those. I just watch Planet of the Apes, Kingdom, something, whatever the new one is. Um, all kinds of movies, or I might do half and half. I might just get up in the morning and go for a walk up on deck 12 and then go hang out in the spa. I might go do the steam room. I usually I try to get my mani pedis off the ship, but it doesn't work out. So um at least every 6 weeks I go get my nails done. Whatever I feel like doing. Yeah. So some days it could be everything, some days it could be nothing, and some days it could be everything in between. Because I am, as my kids try and tell me, stay busy, which I don't know, YouTube. I'm trying to do YouTube and so many people are trying to learn it, and my kids suggest it's for me to keep busy. But editing them videos kind of take a while. But when I'm out and about doing things, because I'm doing YouTube, I have my GoPro with me and I try to film a little bit. So when I on those days when I don't feel like going out, I'll edit and post a video so people can see what it's like to live on the cruise ship. So that's a little bit different. But um I probably spend about 10 to 15 hours a week editing YouTube videos.
Okay. Um, her channel is called Poverty to Paradise. So if you're not subscribed to Linnell's channel, you absolutely should be. As she mentioned, her videos give you insight to like, oh, this is what it looks like to live on a cruise ship. She breaks down for those of you that are particularly interested in what this looks like financially. She does really good recap videos where she breaks down her cost for the month, and all of that. So if you're not subscribed, go and do that now. Um, do you have any like rules for yourself about like the length of a cruise that you'll take? Um, or like, oh, I only want to go on cruises that go to these places. You have any kind of like rules, self rules like that?
Nope, I'm very flexible. Usually I'm going to, being the frugal person that I am, I'm going to try and see which one is going to give me the most bang for my buck. So I haven't booked any I think I've only had one 4-day cruise. Other than that, I'm trying to get the longest cruise possible for the smallest amount. And I also try to think strategically about it. For instance, when I was booking my cruises for this ship, Venezia, I wanted them all to be, in the same month. I don't have to fly here, fly somewhere else, and then fly back over here just for another 10 days or whatever. So that's why I ended up booking 5 cruises here. If I'm going over to California, book as many cruises over there as I can. But no, I'm open to wherever the cruise is going. If it fits in my itinerary, if it fits in my budget. I have a couple cruises that are 16 days that are $166. And
$166 for
they
16
actually
days.
leave the US. I think they leave out of New Orleans, goes over to Portugal, stops in the Caribbean, goes over to Barcelona. And the cruise is actually what I actually paid was 366, but I get the other 200 back in onboard credit, which will probably go to gratuities for me. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm open.
Um,
I have one that's going to no, you're in Mexico. I have one that's going to I think it leaves Miami, goes to Colombia, down to Costa Rica through the Panama Canal, over to Cabo, San Lucas, all the way up to Seattle. Yeah, I'm ready.
wow. Okay. So what would you say are the advantages and the disadvantages to living on a cruise ship?
Um, I'm actually kind of working on a video for that. I was kind of trying to think of the things that people would most be interested in. Um, I think they're kind of just the obvious things. I mean, advantage is, especially now I'm on Carnival, I'm platinum. So I don't do no work. I don't do no cooking. I don't do no cleaning. Now that I'm platinum, I get free laundry, 3 bags of laundry, which I'm a minimalist, so I only have one backpack and a carry-on. I think I have 7 outfits, so I don't really even need that much laundry, but I get free laundry. I'm not do no cleaning. Yeah, no cooking.
Yeah, no.
I, I I'm a math person, so you usually don't find us in the kitchen anyway. So. Um, Also, biggest disadvantage is probably the same thing that you all have on land, or at least what I had on land is, and overall coverage is selfish people. So that could be selfish people, could be people who come and just complain in the dining room about the staff, people who will come knowing that they're sick and they'll come into a crowd of people and start coughing and hacking and giving it to everybody instead of isolating themselves. Just people who are just being selfish. And not so much the kids, like kids will come and run down the hallway, and if I'm in my room, I can hear it. It's really loud. But kids are kids, right? But when the adults come and stand by your door and just start talking loud. You don't know who's in here. You don't know if I have a sick child who's trying to sleep, which on my cruise for Mother's Day, my one of my granddaughters did get sick for a couple days and she had to go in her cabin for a while. You don't why are you standing by my door? When you're at home, you don't go stand in front of your neighbor's house and talk so loud. But yeah, it just boils down to selfish people. Other than that, everything else is minor and water off a duck's back.
Have you had any, excuse me, have you had ever a need to use the medical facilities on on the ships?
No. I wanted to test it just so I could make a video about it and tell people what it was like, but I knew I just had a cold and I went down there just to see what they would say. And they say they will charge you 175. Like I'm not paying you no $200 for no code. But if you have COVID, then they won't charge you anything, but they won't know till after they test you for COVID. But other than that, no. Before I got on the ship, so before I went full time 4th of July. That was my Independence Day. So April I took some cruises, May I took some cruises, June I took some cruises, but I was still technically living at my daughter's place. But so during that transition time, I told my doctor what I was planning on doing. So she gave me a full workup and said, yep, you got a clean bill of health. There's a few prescription medicines that I want you to stay on. But here's 4 90-day supplies. So that's going to keep you for a whole year. So yeah, she gave me her blessing, said, you're healthy as a horse, go and, be blessed. So I don't have any major health issues and I've never had to go down there for anything other than me just being curious.
Okay. Because people who may not be familiar, like there is, I want to say, a little of everything on a cruise ship. You mentioned you could order room service. That's included in the food that you're already paying for. There are
Yes and
restaurants.
no. Yes and no.
No?
So some things on the menu, some things on the room service menu are complimentary and some things are not. And it depends on the cruise line too. Well, I've only done Carnival and Royal. I have some free cruises with Princess and Holland America. That's a different story. But with Royal Caribbean, there's stuff on the breakfast, lunch, and dinner menu that are complimentary, and other things on the menu that you pay for. With Carnival, the complimentary is only on breakfast and a few things like cereal and danishes and stuff. But anything that's hot meals or anything for lunch and dinner on the room service, those you pay for.
But a cruise ship is a lot like a floating city. Like there are the things that you would have in a place that you would have on land. Okay.
Yep.
Um, I'm going through my list of questions because you've answered quite a few of them. Do you ever repeat the routes or the destinations?
All the time.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
Yep. So like
Um,
on this ship here, for instance, the first cruise was a 10-day, the second was an 11, the third was a 10, the fourth was an 11, and this is a 9. The two 10 days were the same, the two 11 days were the same, and this 9 day is totally different from both of those. Yep.
okay. Okay. Um, what when you do onshore excursions, how do you decide? Because, I want to say like that's where things can get really pricey. And you've already said that you've self-identified as frugal. So, how do you decide like, yes, this is an excursion I'm going to do, or no, this is what I'm going to pass on?
Okay. So when I was younger, I did all that jet skiing and waterfall hopping and all that stuff. I don't need all that anymore now that I'm in my 50s. Now, when I take excursions, it's either because It's a place that I'm thinking that I might want to. It's a possible place that I could retire to. So I want to get in there and see the culture and see where the people actually live and how, what they're actually doing out there in the streets. Or if it's something that I'm just really curious about. Other than that, um, I'll get off the ports if I think it's something that I could use for YouTube content. Like a lot of people haven't been to Bimini, for instance. I had never been to Bimini. I knew I wasn't going to move or retire to Bimini, but I'm like, let me go see what's out there and make a video because a lot of people don't know what's here in Bimini. So, I would do things like that. But some of the places I'm totally not interested in, and I don't care if anyone wants to see a video. I ain't making it because I want to go out there.
Oh,
So
okay.
sometimes I
That's
just stay on the ship. For instance, or like for instance, NASA. We've been to NASA probably 10 times since I've been cruising. There's a whole bunch of videos already out there on YouTube. So people don't need me to go out there to make a video on NASA. And I know I'm not going to retire in the Bahamas because once you are a resident there, you're not allowed to play in the casino. And I ain't about that life.
okay. Um, how far out are you planning your cruises? How far in advance?
How far am I planning them or how far are they already planned? Is that what you mean?
Or like booking. So like, are you like already booked 3 months ahead, 2 months ahead, 6 months ahead?
I've booked 60 cruises and the last one ends the week before Thanksgiving of next year. So I'm already booked
Just
up till the
hold
end
on.
of next year.
Hold on. Let me, because that's, you just said that all casually, but I just want to make sure everybody else heard that. She said she has booked 60 cruises, and you are booked through damn near Thanksgiving 2025.
Yes, the only opening in my schedule is in July because I want to go back for my annual health checkups over in Georgia. So I don't have July booked, but everything else is booked. Yep.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Um, you are cruising solo. You are living on cruise ships alone. Um, are you finding it difficult to build community, or does community just look different in the way that you're living your life right now?
Well, I'm type A, so I don't really look for a community. I love being solo. I can probably stay in my room the rest of my life without anybody. But community is finding me through YouTube, obviously, but also outside of YouTube. Just um, when one of the things that I like to do is I like to go to the main dining room because let's face it, that's probably where I'm gonna get my healthy meals. Usually when I'm sitting in the main dining room, there's other people who chit chat with me. So when I go to different things, like I said, sometimes I'll come out of my room and don't go back in until it's time to go to bed. So when I'm at these events, I'm chit chatting with people, whether it's we're making crafts together or we're learning a new dance together or whatever we're out there doing. Even when we're eating or I'm sitting out on the like most of the ships will have this, what do you call it, lanai on the sides of the ship. That's one of my favorite spots to go. Even when I'm sitting out there, people will just come by and say hey and um, come by and sit down and talk and things like that. We have things in common. So yeah, I guess community is finding me, but I've always um, I've always went to beat of my own drum, so I don't need community per se.
I
Maybe
mean,
I
but
will
you
later.
talking to
Maybe it's just
strangers.
because hmm?
I say you talking to strangers. You got me beat because random people coming to sit by me and have a conversation? Absolutely not. No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. Obviously, if it's something that I'm interested in. Yeah, a
And
lot of
you
times
also
especially during meals, people will come and like, oh, what are you eating? What is that called? And then we strike up a conversation. Oh, are you celebrating anything? That's one of the best things about being on a cruise ship too. You don't have a lot of grumpy people because everybody on vacation, so mostly everybody is happy.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. You mentioned being part of the Exodus Summit community. So I asked this question because there may be somebody who's hearing your story and hearing your experience, and they're trying to imagine themselves choosing this life. And one of the things, I talk about, Stephanie talks about, Rashida talks about is community. But also, folks often get stuck in, well, I'm going to be doing this by myself. And I think community can look differently. It can be partially online, it can be partially in person, it can be tied to a geographic place. It can be tied to an activity or a group of interests. I think people just have to be open to the different possibilities of what all it could look like. Um, okay. Ask that question. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the YouTube channel. You mentioned your children were like, "Yeah, here's something you can do to keep busy." Um, Other than that, why else did you choose to create a YouTube channel, or was that the sole reason?
that was the sole reason. I'm continuing it now for different reasons, but that was the sole reason because my son is I call him a big YouTuber. If anybody watches animation, his channel is Shady Do Rags, and he what do you call it? He analyzes different shows. So like King of the Hill. Um, I can't think of
Like
them all,
live
but because
react?
that's not my yeah, that's not my ministry, but he has a big following, and so he has been doing YouTube as his full-time career for a few years now, and of course, he was like, "Mom, you could make some extra money, but on top of that, to keep you busy, because you're gonna get bored with the different shows and things like that." And um, I obviously I haven't had that issue because there's so many things to do on the ships. Even this one, I've been on it for 2 months, and I have not done everything on the ship. I thought that I was going to be up in the what do you call it, the Serenity area where there are no kids allowed. There's a hot tub and all that stuff. I thought I was going to be up there more often than I do, but more often than I am up there. But I found other parts of the ships that I like better, and hanging out on in the different activities that they have on the ship. So yeah, there's way more to cruise life than what people anticipated to be. But yeah, now I am doing it. I'm continuing to do it because even though I know I wouldn't get bored, I could just say, no, my kids were wrong. I don't need to do YouTube. I'm not going to get bored. Let's just put this to the side. But when I started making videos, then I have people who come on the ship. Oh, I saw your video and now I knew exactly what to pack before I came on this cruise. And oh, I saw your video and I looked in my email and I saw that I was getting some free offers and I was able to book it. And I see people in the comments of the videos, oh, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. So, um, I found something that I didn't know I was looking for. I wasn't looking for it, but that's just that people want to know this information that's in my head. So why not share it? So that's where I'm at right now, and why I'm still doing YouTube because even though I say I don't need community, I'm good on my own. It still brings me joy to make other people happy, to see a smile on their face, or for someone to say thank you. This gives me hope. That just really brings me joy.
Why'd you choose the name Poverty to Paradise?
Because when I made this channel, I um I came from a family of 7 kids, a single mom. and we were dirt poor. Let's just say it like that, okay? And as I grew up and decided to take different steps to build a career, go back to school for accounting and different things like that, a lot of people in my family were still or are still kind of stuck in their ways, and I see them complaining all the time about, the man this and the man that, and just not trying to improve themselves. And also because as 18 years as an apartment manager, 7 of those years, all of them were in low income housing, apartments mainly. 7 of those years, I was a manager for a housing authority. And there are just so many people who look like us who are in poverty and just are just staying there. And it hurts me to see that they don't pull themselves up and take advantage of the resources that are out there to have a better life instead of just sitting there complaining and complaining, come out of poverty. And then when I saw all the different um, people in Exit Summit, your channel, and others, when you guys talk about the earth awaits and that there are other places, even if you don't move abroad, there are other places outside of, I grew up in Orlando, there's other places that you can move and your income will go further and you don't have to sit there and complain and be stuck in poverty all the time. So when I created this channel, in my head, it was going to be, I want to help women or people in our situation who are in poverty know that we don't have to stay there. Just like I came out of poverty, even though I'm not rich per se, but you don't have to sit there and just complain all the time. You can do something about it. And that's where I was leaning with the channel, but unfortunately, it, I don't really know how to describe it.
What?
S- the people that I was surrounding myself with, that I was trying to explain of how to do it, they weren't accepting of it, and so I had to just find where I fit in. And so those who couldn't afford cruises and now they see, oh, we can get cruises at discounts, those were the people who were receptive to the video. So it kind of turned into a cruise channel. So that's where the name came from. And I figured it doesn't need to be changed. I'm still coming out of
No.
poverty, trying to find my own paradise, and I'm still trying to help people who are in poverty find their paradise, whether it's through cruising or seeing that there's other ways than just the norm. So that's what that channel is about.
No, I agree with you. I don't think the name is in misalignment at all. I think you're still doing that same work, that by seeing you, what is it? I forgot, somebody at Exodus Summit talked about possibility models. Seeing you live this life and you are being generous in documenting it and sharing it, that is giving somebody else a possibility model, because you try and keep your cost of living to $2,000 a month. And you are doing that where you don't have to pay for laundry, you are not cleaning, you are not cooking, you've got entertainment options. Like, the life you are describing, most people would not believe that you could have that life for $2,000 a month. That's 24,000 a year. Like, we're not talking, you, in this life on the sea, you have created literally a paradise kind of life, that people would think, oh, you've got to have millions of dollars to live that way. So I think you're still doing the same work. I was just curious,
Yep,
is
yep.
all,
Even
because I'm
myself, I'm still
nosy.
surprised that I can do this at the amount that I'm doing it at. I'm still surprised. So, but because others have paved the way for me to look into, as you say, possibilities, that gave me the idea to, hey, what is this even possible? Because if I hadn't seen other people, paving that path, I probably wouldn't even thought about it.
Okay. Well, I think we already answered this. Do you ever take off time between cruises?
Since I've been doing it 4th of July, I took off one time just because I had some leftover hotel stuff, so I stayed 2 weeks in New Orleans. And I had that free hotel, so I took advantage of that. And I was glad that it was there because I was born in New Orleans, and both sides of my family. My grandma had like 18 kids on one side and six on the other, so I got a billion cousins in New Orleans, aunts and uncles. So I was glad to do that. Um, Other than that, the only other break that I had a cruise for Thanksgiving, a free cruise for Thanksgiving, but I canceled it because I want to see my grandbabies.
Okay. Okay.
And
Um,
and then July, that's it. No other
okay.
breaks.
All right. So somebody said that you were like you weren't doing credit card point hacking, but you were cruise hacking. And you were like, but also I do a little bit of the credit card points. So let's talk about that a little bit because I know there are folks here who are very keen on that sort of thing.
Y'all, do them credit card hacks. There's a lot of pros out there on YouTube who teach how to do it. I'm We did a lot with the couponing and stuff like that, and I'm not the one to ask about the credit cards. I can only tell you about the ones that I use. And right now, that's really is it four that's really benefiting me? So I can tell you briefly about those four. But obviously, the cruise credit cards. So I have Carnival and Royal Caribbean. So as you make purchases with those, you rack up points, and you can pay for your cruises with those. And you can imagine if my cruise is only 150 bucks, 200 bucks, those, that works a lot. But I put most of my main expenses on my actually five cards. So those two cards. My main expenses, I put my regular bills like my health insurance and things like that on my IHG card. I shouldn't say health insurance. No, that's on my HSA. But my cell phone and things like that are on my IHG card. And I use IHG when you have a loyalty card to one brand, then you rack up more points instead of just, this hotel, this hotel, this hotel. You want it all on one. So either try and stick with one brand. And for me, IHG works because it's not just one set of hotels. There's like, I don't know how many hotels IHG has, like maybe 15. So I've stayed at different hotels with IHG, whether it's Intercontinental, Even Hotel. Um, oh, I can't think of the one in Atlanta that I went to. Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express. A lot of hotels are under that brand. So I love them. I also, the other two that I use, and I had these before I started doing this, but the American Airlines and Spirit Airlines. Y'all be sleeping on Spirit. A lot of people don't like Spirit, but hey, I got a bunch of free cruises out of it. And I'm a big girl, but I still fit in those seats, so long as it get me from A to B. But yeah, I got a lot of free flights out of American Airlines and Spirit, and I still have points with both of them just from signing up with their credit cards. So those are the
Okay.
five that I use.
So the cruise cards, obviously, the money you spend there, you can use that to pay for cruises. Now, are you using any of the other cards to pay for cruises, or the other cards are covering things like airfare, the points there, airfare, hotel?
Yeah, I wouldn't, me personally, I would not use my other cards to pay for my cruises because a benefit, and when you look in the fine print, again, I'm in the details of a lot of things. When you look in the fine print, for the cruise credit cards, for most credit cards, if you book a trip with them and it comes with trip insurance, I'm not out of a lot of money if I get sick and decide to stay in a hotel for a week because I missed a cruise. I only paid 150, 200 bucks for it. But it still will cover me for travel insurance when I use the cruise card for that cruise. Plus, I'm getting the points for it. Plus, I can pay off, the cruises for it with the points. So, yeah, I wouldn't use another card for a cruise for Carnival Cruise or Royal Caribbean Cruise. Yeah.
Okay, so definitely y'all, you need to get into the small print, the details of whichever cards you currently have. I think before you go out and get additional cards and think about strategically how you might be using them and who they have points relationships with and that sort of thing. Okay, we are not going to keep you here all day, but we did have some questions. Um, we had a question about visas. Um, I mean, I assume the places it's just like if you were flying there, whether or not you need a visa or no.
I have no idea. I've never used a visa, never had a visa, never been asked about a visa. All the places that
Okay.
I've gone to so far have been in the Caribbean and South America and Mexico, and I have not needed a visa. That is a question when I go on my 16-day cruise, because we're going to be going to Portugal and Barcelona and things like that. As we get closer, I'm sure the cruise line will tell me. But obviously, for me, the major thing is just to make sure I have my passport. But no,
Passport.
I have not had any experience with any visas. Mm-mm.
Excuse me. Are your preferred do you have any other preferred cruise lines other than Carnival and what's the other one?
Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean? Are those the main two, or do you have additional ones you just haven't mentioned?
Um, so with when I got the free cruises with Royal Caribbean and Carnival, I was in some Facebook groups and someone mentioned that you can do matches. So I sent my free cruise offers over to Princess and Holland America, and both of them gave me a free 7-day cruise where I only pay the port fees and taxes. There's no deposits or anything like that. So I'm going on one of each of those in December. It's my understanding from watching, there's a YouTube channel called 30 and Awake. It's my understanding from that channel that for Princess, once you play in the casino, they kind of give a lot of free cruises like Carnival does. I think that's a sister ship. So once I get on that free cruise, I'll probably play a little bit on Princess just to see if I can get some more free cruises with that cruise line. Holland America, I know nothing about them. I just hear that they're the old folks cruise, but I do have a free cruise with them. I also have heard that you can also do the same thing that I did with those two. You can do that also with Virgin Voyages, but because I'm already booked up on so many cruises already, I probably won't even attempt to do that until later of next year because I don't want them to offer me a free cruise and then I'm like, oh, I'm already booked up till next year. You got to wait. So whether they keep that program by the time I sign up for it or not, I don't know, but that is out there in the atmosphere. So people want to check those out.
Okay.
The only other one that I probably would be interested in is Disney once my grandkids get older, but they don't have casinos, so I ain't really interested in them right now.
Okay. We talked already because there was a question about your long-term plan, but you're for right now, you just going with the flow and seeing what things
Yeah,
are happening.
if I don't get more cruise deals where I continue to do this long term, or if I decide, I've had a lot of fun with cruising, but I'm ready to be done with it. Most likely my next step is going to be either slow travel, where I'm going to a different few different countries for a month or two at a time, or just settling down. Whether it's back in the United States or not, I'm not sure. If I had to make that decision right now today, I can tell you without a doubt it would be Mazatlan, Mexico, because I went there and I fell in love. And it's the only place that I like guacamole, and I love the people and the beaches and the mountains and everything about Mazatlan. If you haven't seen my video, it's out there. It was one of my early ones, so ain't nobody really saw it, but I love Mazatlan, Mexico. I know un poquito español, but I'm gonna make it work. But other than that, yeah, that's what my
Okay.
plans are if I was to do something right now today, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. We had this question. I've never been on a cruise. As a beginner, where would you recommend me to start?
As a beginner, where? Depends on what you like. And for me, age plays a factor. So one of the questions I always get, probably every cruise, which do you like better, Carnival or Royal Caribbean? I say it depends on when you ask me. If you ask me right now, I'm going to say Royal Caribbean. If you asked me probably 10 years ago, I would say Carnival. You ain't gonna never bored. They always have activities, and it's for to me, it's for the younger generation or those who really like to party. I mean, I saw a 90-year-old a couple of days ago, and she's like, she had the clubs every night. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening after 10 o'clock. So, but if you want to be treated like royalty with the white linen tablecloths, you want extraordinary food, extraordinary customer service, Royal Caribbean. To start, I would go to I have a and if you're looking to do it on a budget, I have a video on my channel. It the thumbnail says something about $65 a day, but it walks you through Cruise Plum, and that shows you how to get discount cruises or how to get cheap cruises that are not casino deals. So you can look for something that's within your budget. As a first-time cruiser, if you're not sure if you would be prone to seasickness and things like that, I would say don't start with a 3 or 4 day cruise, and don't start with a long 10, 11 day cruise. Start somewhere in the middle with a 5 or 6 day cruise, because a 3 day cruise, those are your party boats. Everybody's just on there. It's a different clientele, but somewhere in the middle, maybe a 5 day cruise is a great place to start.
Okay. All right. We had a couple of questions about bad weather. Have you had any experiences with bad weather?
Yes and no. Um, yes, there was bad weather, but the cruise lines, they're not gonna let these billion-dollar ships go into any kind of danger. The closest they will be is 200 miles from the eye of a storm. So the most you will get is some rough waves. We're not worried about the ship tipping over or running through a hurricane or nothing like that. Um, there's been occasions where, probably since I've been doing this since April, probably 3 or 4 times where the waves were higher than normal, where the ship, we couldn't port, but the most you get is you kind of stumble a little bit when you're walking around. It's not like, oh, I'm so sick, everybody's going to be vomiting or something like that. No, they don't go that close in the storms and things like that. No.
Okay. We had two questions kind of related. One was asking about if you had your own room, and another is about single supplements for the room.
Okay.
How do you deal with that?
So, yep, I'm a solo cruiser. The only time someone else has been in a room with me during these cruises, beforehand, my son was when I went with family and things like that, and my first husband. But on this recent journey that I'm on, the only other person who shared a room with me was my sister, who came on my first couple free cruises. Other than that, I'm solo. Nobody else in the room with me. And what was the other question? Oh, supplements. Whoever asked that question, take that word out your vocabulary. It don't matter. Does it matter if there's a single supplement or not? If you're paying $500 for a 7 day cruise with no single supplement, or $250 for a cruise and $250 single supplement? No, they're both $500. It doesn't matter. Just look at the overall price of the cruise. Is that within your budget? For me, I divide it by the number of days that the cruise is on. When I'm not doing casino deals, um, the a great target for me is $100 per day per person. For the casino deals, I'm looking for something way cheaper, more like $30 a day. But yeah, don't worry about the single supplement, because it's just gonna trip you up. People are like, "Oh, I don't want to pay that." But if you pay a single supplement and it's $500, and someone else doesn't pay it and it's $500, what's the difference?
Okay. That's a great way to reframe it and think about it. Okay. You've already told us you pretty much, with the exception of probably Thanksgiving, and your doctor's appointments in next July, you are going to be on a boat somewhere. So, how are you handling mail?
Everything is digital. I got rid of everything. So, well, I got a few things from the health insurance people saying it's time to renew and things like that. But there's two options out there. The one that I use is my driver's license has my daughter's address on it, and if ever I need, like a credit card gets updated or something, and they send me a new one, everything goes to her house, and she'll let me know. And if it's something that I need, well, there's two things. So if I order something from Amazon, I can send it to a locker, and every week I'm back in the United States somewhere in a port, so I can just go pick it up from an Amazon locker. Or if it's something that she has, like a credit card or something that I need, between cruises I would obviously have to wait, right? So, like between this cruise and the one I was on before in New Orleans, I stayed in a hotel. All the hotels will accept mail for me, so I just have her send it to the hotel, and she has one of my credit cards, so she doesn't have to or she's named on one of my credit cards, so she can use that to for shipping and things like that.
Pay
But
for
if I
it.
didn't have her, there are lots of mail services out there that you can have do that stuff for you. And I would use
Okay.
those
All
if she
right.
ever said, "Yeah, this is a burden." Yeah.
Mm. We also had a question about taxes, and it's the same as it always is. If you are a US citizen or a legal resident, Uncle Sam expects you to file your taxes. That part does not change. Okay, I'm trying to see if we hit all the questions. We did have a couple of questions about gratuities at the end of the cruise, like how much are you spending on that on average?
I'm gonna put that somebody told me, I think it was a pastor. They say don't talk about religion, politics, and sex. I'm gonna put gratuities in that because no matter what I say, somebody gonna come back and fuss. Somebody is good. There is
That's
too much
that's
debate
that's
about
fair.
gratuities.
That's
Um,
fair.
I'll just say this. For me, I don't tell anybody that they should or should not pay gratuities. If you don't want to pay gratuities, don't pay gratuities. If you want to pay it, pay it. Don't worry about what other people tell you or don't let nobody else get in your pockets. For me, I've already budgeted that into my expenses and I do pay the gratuities. Sometimes I have to catch myself because I might overpay gratuities. But um, if I don't want to pay gratuities, then I don't think nobody should tell me that I have to pay it. So
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, if anyone when you go to my channel, you look at my either my very first video or my monthly expense videos, you'll see that I have gratuities in there.
Okay. We had Oh, crud. There was a question. Oh, we had several questions about the cost of internet. So can you talk about that and how you handle internet? Like, are you using internet every day, all day? How's that working?
Short answer is it's too high, y'all. It's too
It's
high.
too high.
I guess I should have put that in one of the cons of cruising. It's too high. So yeah, and it's the same whether it's Royal Caribbean or Carnival. It might be a few dollars off, but if you pay for it in advance, you have to pay for it during the whole cruise. If you don't, um, and you want to pay for it on the ship, you can pay for it for the whole cruise or one day at a time. If you pay for it in advance, you can't pay one day at a time. If you pay for it on a cruise, you can do it one day at a time, but it's way more. So for Carnival, because I don't remember Royal right now, but for Carnival, if I pay for it in advance, it's $21 per day. On the ship, it's $35 per day, which is way too high.
A lot.
Ooh,
A
that's like
lot.
almost 1,400 a month. That's more than a cruise. Um, so how do I handle it? For the most part, I don't get the Wi-Fi because I am either back in port or in some sorry, I use Verizon, so my phone can use the cell towers in Canada, Mexico, U.S. Virgin Islands, San Juan, Puerto Rico, places like that. Outside of that, I have an international plan where I can pay, it'll do roaming, but it'll charge me $10 for the day. So usually I just use my cell phone. Now, there were a couple times, only twice that I had to pay for, or that I decided I have to do anything, that I decided to pay for in advance. One was the week of the Exodus Summit because I was taking some classes with a different group about things to do as far as living abroad, how to get visas, things like that. And I was also doing the Exodus Summit, and I was also wanting to make sure I kept up the YouTube upload. So I paid for the Wi-Fi for 2 weeks, which was like 400 something dollars, almost $500. And
Wow.
I did it for, yeah, just for 2 weeks. And I did it for this week only because um I when you see my YouTube videos, most of the time they're pre-recorded, probably a week or two ahead of time. And during Thanksgiving, I want all my attention with my grandbaby, so I want to make sure I had Wi-Fi to upload all the videos. So during Thanksgiving, I don't have to worry about that. Yeah. But other than that,
Okay.
yeah, I don't pay for the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Um, Halisi wants to know, can you get used to or immune to seasickness?
I can't really answer that question because I've never been seasick before. Um, I can tell you on my very, very first cruise, which was I think 2001, I made the mistake. Don't make this mistake. If you think you're gonna be seasick, don't. I made the mistake of wait until there was like a storm or something. It wasn't even a storm. It was just high waves, and I took the Dramamine. And for me, it does the same thing as Benadryl. It put me straight to sleep. So I learned that if you're gonna take Dramamine because you think that you might get seasick, take it the night before the cruise and then take it in the evenings. That way, if it's gonna make you sleepy, you're gonna be asleep anyway. By the time you wake up, you'll be refreshed. So my first early days of cruising, that is what I did when I took Dramamine because I thought I might get seasick, but I never got seasick. So yeah, that would be the only advice I could give on that because I don't even take it. I have some, which I need to just throw it away because I never use it.
Okay, we
I
have
got my sea legs.
last question because again, we're not trying to monopolize all of your time today. Um, excuse me, can you speak a little bit about accessibility on the cruise ships? Like, are there rooms that are accessible? Is the ship itself accessible? Like getting to the different decks, the different levels, activities, what have you?
Now that I can speak to because before I started doing this, I was using a scooter. I wasn't fully disabled, but I have plantar fasciitis. So I can't walk long distances. If I walk more than 30, 45 minutes, my feet start to kill me. So I used to use a scooter. But now I gave it up and I just found ways to I don't walk far. I know how to balance how far I'm going before my feet start hurting. But anyway, so yeah, using the scooter on I used it on Vista, Carnival Vista, and I used it on Royal Caribbean Allure of the Seas. And that I've seen all the ships are accessible. You have no issue using a wheelchair, a scooter, or whatever, but there might be some caveats to that. So um, there are all the ships have accessible cabins, but most of them are limited on how many they have. So they might only have two balcony cabins that are accessible on the whole ship, or they might have only four inside or something like that. And if those were booked early, I mean, sometimes even if you book like a year out, you know, people who have those issues, they book really early. So those rooms could already be booked up. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Some ships are liberal as far as can I leave because I'm in a regular cabin, can I leave my scooter, wheelchair, whatever, out in the hallway? Some of them absolutely not. Some of them, yes. One cabin I was in, it was in the interior. I think it was on Navigator of the Seas. No, it wasn't Navigator, it was a different ship. But anyway, the cabin was a regular cabin, so the door wasn't really wide. It wasn't extra wide like the accessible cabins were, but I could still push the scooter in and just take the battery out. Or some of them, like I said, they're okay with you leaving the scooter out. You just bring your battery in your cabin and nobody's going to take your scooter. A
Okay.
lot of the ships also too, this is something that I found out recently, if you don't have your own mobility device, but you need one, you can call the ship ahead of time and they actually have them on the ship. So they have either a regular wheelchair where your partner or whoever can push you around, or they have the electric scooters, which they don't charge anything for them. And again, that's just on select ships. I can't tell you which ones do and which ones don't, but I would say call ahead of time. But if you are going to, whether you're going to use theirs or your own, there is a form that has to be filled out ahead of time, so you don't have to get it certified by a doctor or anything like that, but they do want to know ahead of time, are you getting this accessible room because you have a wheelchair, or you just want a bigger room? Because those rooms are way bigger than, say, like an accessible interior is going to be way bigger than a regular interior. So they do want to make sure that you actually need that, as opposed to someone else who doesn't need it and just want a bigger room.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Linnell. I'm so happy we were able to do this. If you are not subscribed to Linnell's channel, Poverty to Paradise, you should be doing that. She has a ton of videos that cover virtually every aspect of cruising, as well as the money piece. She is very good and very open and very transparent about, if you are considering this lifestyle, what it's going to cost you or what it could cost you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and hang out with us today on your day in port. Um, Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. And I didn't tell you this before, but one of the things that I'm thankful for you is during not this, I want to say it was 2022 Exodus Summit, you had a class called, I forget what it was called, but looking at the numbers, and I had never looked at my numbers to see what was in my savings, what was in my investments. Can I afford to do anything like this until I saw your video? So I definitely try to take what you gave me and what I got out of that class and share it with other people, not to make the assumption that you can't do something that you want to do until you actually look at the numbers and do the math. I think that's what it was called, do the math. And so I appreciate you for that. And I thank you for having me
Aw.
here. And hopefully I helped someone somehow.
Oh, I think you absolutely helped and inspired quite a few people. Oh, thank you.